Greg Bakun here. I've told you about the out-of-the-world roast beef sandwiches at Maverick's Real Roast Beef, but I haven't told you about their Philly steak sandwiches, turkey bacon avocado sandwich, BLT, crispy chicken, fish sandwiches, brisket, or pulled pork. Okay, you get the idea. They make a lot of delicious food to the same standard as their famous roast beef sandwiches, and now I'm starving. I'm going to go to Maverick's Real Roast Beef off Lexington and Roseville, and you need to go too. Check out their menu at mavericksbeef.com.
The views expressed and the opinions given by the individual host, guest, random reptoid, or chupacabra may not necessarily reflect those of AM 950 Radio, its affiliates, or its sponsors. Now, it's time to step into the unknown. There are things people experience but never talk about. A shadow moving in the corner, flickering of the lights, a disembodied voice. We invite you to talk with us. Share your story, share your experience, because this isn't just your story. This is our story. This is GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun.
And this is GhostBox Radio on AM 950, where every night we talk about the paranormal, ufology, Bigfoot, and so much more. My name is Greg Bakun. Thank you very much for joining me tonight on this Tuesday evening. And boy, it's getting hot out there, isn't it? You know, here's the thing. I've been listening to what's going on down in Houston, what's going on in the Gulf area, let alone the sheer amount of tornadoes that are, you know, ripping through the area now that Beryl has moved through. The fact that most of them have no power down there, and also the fact that the temperatures are hitting between 102 and 105. I mean, that is just unbearable. So my thoughts and prayers go out to those in not Beryl, my goodness, in the Houston area, in the Gulf area, those who are affected by Beryl. Boy, it just doesn't sound like a great situation down there. Tonight, I wanted to talk about ShadowPeople, and I wanted to be able to, because we haven't done that on the show too much. We have never really brought someone on to really kind of get into that conversation with us. And tonight, I had reached out over a couple of weeks ago to author Heidi Hollis. You may have heard Heidi on she does a podcast on the Coast to Coast AM host on the Coast to Coast podcast network. She's the host of Dark Becomes Light with Heidi Hollis. But unfortunately, I have no idea where she is. I have been emailing her for a couple weeks because I want to make sure that she's well aware of the show. There's paperwork that I send out to the guests just so that they know what to expect and stuff. And she never canceled on me, but she literally has disappeared. I have not heard from her. I did not fill this slot with somebody else because I just kind of held out hope that we would get her tonight. And once again, I really do not know what happened to her. There was nothing that she sent to me saying that she has decided not to be on the show tonight. There is nothing that she sent asking for clarification. Every time I've talked to her is to the same email address that I had sent all my information before. So I'm not sure what happened. And I did see that she had actually posted on Twitter about 3 hours beforehand with some information. So I don't think, me hoping that there's nothing wrong or anything, but I mean, it's been a few weeks actually that I have not heard from her. And I'm going to be perfectly honest, it bums me out, hoping that there's a really honest and simple explanation for it. But to be perfectly honest, I'm hoping that something just happened that wasn't horrible, obviously. Something that just maybe slipped her mind or whatever else. But, it's really tough when, you want to bring on good people who really know the areas that we're talking about, and we just don't hear from them at all. And I do see that she's posting other places. So I'm going to be honest, it's a bit of a bummer, but, the show must go on. And that's what we do here. And so as those of you who know me, being able just to kind of extemporaneously speak off the top of my head is not an issue. So you're stuck with what we call a Just Greg episode, which is just me And I'm going to be talking about shadow people, my experiences. I'd like to know your thoughts about it. Bruce in the comments says that maybe she really is a shadow person. Maybe, I don't know, could be. But I think that shadow person could still come on the air. But I'll tell you, though, it reminds me, I shouldn't say this, but I'm going to anyway. When we had our guest on for DB Cooper, who is fantastic, and Bruce's response here kind of reminded me of it. Based on the age of him and the and the fact that he knew so much about DB Cooper, somebody at the station listened to that episode and they just said to me, why didn't you ask him if he was DB Cooper? Because he knew so much about DB Cooper. He knew so much about him. If you listen to the episode, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. We didn't get anywhere in the episode because there was so much information that he wanted to give off. And like the age and stuff kind of works a little bit on that. And it's like, we laughed and then we stopped and we stared at each other like, I wonder. So, and we're going to get him back on, Bob Edwards. We're going to get him back on, and maybe we'll ask that question. We won't ask that question. I guarantee it. But, I thought that was funny when Bruce was like, well, maybe she really is a shadow person. Maybe Bob Edwards really is DB Cooper. I don't know. Those are the questions that as an interviewer, I have failed to ask. I have failed you all. So Could you imagine if you're like an expert in your field and you're on like a show like mine and suddenly I'm just like, are you DB Cooper? Come on, you could just tell us. And just be like, but then again, here's the thing. He's not in the country. He did. If you watched the online version of my show with that episode, he had a bunch of maps behind him as well. I don't know. Like I said, we laughed and then we just stared at each other. The person at the station and myself. So I laughed nervously. So I want to talk about some shadow people stuff. I am by no means an expert on shadow people, but I'll tell you one thing that I think that is fair to say about shadow people is I don't think we know really anything about them. That good people like Heidi have written books about them, talked about them, may have experienced a version of what we call shadow people. But I think the way that people look at that these days is that shadow people, we can't see really any distinguishing sort of features or anything on them. They're very mysterious. And I think a lot of people jump to the conclusion that means that they're probably evil. There's people out there who have tried to make a living off of telling us that, writing books that are, basically not very good. I'm not talking about Heidi. I'm talking about other people that I'm not going to have on the show to talk about shadow people. And there are, I think one of the tropes in our field of paranormal is that we tend to jump, and I mean collectively. I know there's individuals who do not do this, but collectively we tend to jump to perhaps more of the negative side of everything. As anyone who's ever been a paranormal investigator working on private cases, they probably have heard someone reach out to them and say, we got something going on in our house. It's probably a demon. It probably is not. That's just how it is. But, people immediately go down that sort of rabbit hole where they think that, oh, well, this is, something, it has to be something nasty. It has to be, no, there's a lot of reasons why things exist and why they come to us in certain ways. Why somebody might see a full-bodied apparition versus somebody just seeing a shadow person. Energy is a very big part of the equation here. Energy has always been a big part of the equation in everything that we do, everything that we exist in, obviously. And the reason why I say it like that is because energy is what binds it all together between the living and the spirits. We're all energy. We're all different forms of energy. Energy cannot be destroyed. And so there might be, though, not enough energy to maybe have someone manifest as a full-bodied apparition. Maybe that's why we only get EVPs, voices on digital recorders, opposed to, being able to hear them as well as you can hear me right now. Those are things that we don't really take into account when we're seeing stuff like shadow people. Now, let's be fair. I've heard a number of people who have told me that they have been terrorized by something that resembles a shadow person. They call them a shadow person. That literally terrorize them. And I will not take that away from them. I'm not saying that, oh, well, you're wrong, because I just explained that, they show up in different guises and all that. I don't know what that is. That's clearly something. But I also think, and Char Savoy, who you may have heard on such radio programs as this one, she has a really good theory on shadow people, which I'll try to say, but I know I'm not going to be able to explain it as eloquently as she does. But the gist of it is if there is light that is shining on them, that you may not be able to see them, but since they are, they exist in some form, that you have to, that they're still creating a shadow. It's still creating a shadow of some kind. So that's why maybe sometimes it's just a spirit. And but your mileage may vary. I mean, there isn't like in my mind, there isn't like a one foolproof thing. The problem is if you've been somebody who has had issues with an entity that is a shadow figure and it's not been good, that's going to be the way you're going to see it. And I understand that, and I appreciate that, and I can understand why that was the case. Cynthia said she had 2 experiences with shadow people. She said first was in the basement of the Palmer house. Oh yeah. I was recording down the hallway while someone was being recorded shape shifting. No body was behind me, but I kept sensing dark things peeking out in curiosity and fear of the thing that was being recorded. Well, that's interesting. And if you have not been to the Palmer house, I highly recommend it. It's been a number of years since I've been there, even though I live about an hour away from there, but there's reasons for that. But it's definitely it's a legit place. Okay. It's very legit. There's a lot of great activity, a lot of great spirits as well. It's not a scary location. Now, I've had a couple interactions with shadow figures as well. My first one, well, I'm gonna go backwards because I want to spend a little bit more time on the second one after the break. But let me get the first one in first, which is actually the second one. Are you still following me? Anyway, so it was at the Mounds Theater. Anyone know the Mounds Theater? That's in St. Paul. We used to, my event group, Parafriends Events, we've done some events over at the Mounds Theater. A fantastic location, by the way, to do paranormal investigations. And it's a very simple story, but it's one that really says a lot. Now, as not only an investigator, but also as an event organizer, one of the things that we do is that we're going to break up into multiple groups, and we're going to do our thing. And there's a number of us who are going to head the groups to make sure that the investigation is being handled in a more orderly way. You don't want chaos doing this stuff. You don't want 5 people asking questions at the same time. It confuses spirit, confuses each other. It doesn't make for a very exciting or interesting or fun investigation. So we're doing all of that. We get everybody in their groups, and I'm in one downstairs. And one of the things that you do is you always kind of remember how many people are with you, how many numbers are in your group, and that's the same with an investigation as well. Whereas in my mind, I know that there's 8 people that are with us, and we are downstairs in the basement where there is an entity known as Basement. Yeah, the story gets better. We're down there, and it's very simple. There is no lights going on in the basement at the moment. They're all shut off. The only light that is coming through is from the second floor, with the light coming down the stairs. And I'm looking around at my group because they're all in line, and everyone looks like a silhouette because the light is behind them. And so I'm looking around, And I'm just, you're just kind of counting out of your own mind here. You're not even, there's no reason to do so. You're just doing it. And I realized that there's an extra person between two people. And the reason why that also stood out is because even though they're silhouette, I can still see who they are. And so I end up, I can still see who they are, and they're together. Why is there someone else in between the two of them? And sure enough, that's a shadow person. Because I look and by the time it hits me of like, what is going on here? And I look back, it's gone. So I look, I notice a different sort of person there, also a different sort of texture to them, if that makes any kind of sense. Look back and they're gone. That's a shadow person. That's, also in the basement. That was where a coworker of mine, her name was Nicole, and she was, we were putting on this event, and we're in the basement. And, when you do these events, you get people who haven't had these paranormal moments before. And that's the point. We want to make sure that they're able to experience something like that safely. And she worked with me at the old advertising agency I was at, and she was, she was very excited to be there. And we're downstairs. I was using Spirit Box, and I was addressing basement, that entity down there. And I said, basement, what would you like us to do? And and through the Spirit Box, it said, get out. And from that moment, Nicole just looked at me. She goes, sounds good to me. And she runs up the stairs onto the stage, because the stairs led up to the stage at the mound, jumped off the stage, ran up the front of the theater, got in her car, and she drove home. She left. She got out of there. And the next time I saw her, which was work on Monday, I said, what happened? She goes, well, I made it home quickly. She said, normally from this area, it'll take me about 12 minutes to get home, but I got home in 8. I'm like, please don't ever do that again. Nicole did find, she recorded one of the great EVPs I've ever heard from the Mounds Theater. And that is, and I'm going to just say it, I'm going to play it, but I'm just going to say it real fast. It is, and I played this before on the show, it's a little girl singing, if you're happy and you know it, clap your hands. You're going to hear it. You're going to hear other people who are like ourselves just trying to get the event. We're not hearing this in real time. It's only after she listened to the recording that she was able to hear that she picked up this little girl. Now the big story at the Mounds Theater is there's a couple spirits that are known to haunt there. One being the projectionist named Red, which that's a story for a different time. And the other is this little girl who, right away people are like, oh, little girl must be a demon. No, we don't think so. She's just a little girl. Try to listen very carefully. And here she is.
Jim, did you enjoy your job here? Thank you for your service, by the way.
And you could hear her in the background. And if you can't, let me know in the comments, and we'll play it again later. But it is really good. Why don't we go ahead and do this? Let's go ahead, take our first break. When we come back, I want to talk about the other story that I have with Shadow Person, get more of your thoughts in there as well, and just keep going on this trend. And anything else you want to talk about, you're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. It's that time of year again where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lilliput is the perfect place and is open for the season. Be the first to take on their newest escape room, The Bunker. It's intense, exciting, and totally unforgettable. Prefer spooky? Try the Haunted Mansion. When you're done escaping, hit the mini golf course, go-karts, and jump pads. Lilliput is perfect for parties and group events too. Visit lilliput.net for hours and start your spring adventures at Lilliput. And I'd like to ask everybody a personal favor if they're able to do so, and I understand that they may not be able to do so. One of the things that I have going on right now is a Patreon for the radio show, and the reason why I've done that is because there are so many episodes of GhostBox Radio in some iteration that I have done over the past 10 years, and the fact that this isn't like, news. This is something that can be re-listened to time and time again because the guests are always very interesting and some of them are not with us any longer. And so I'm doing a Patreon where people can sign up for as low as $3 a month. And basically you're going to be able to get access to the full catalog, some of the rare stuff that we haven't been able to post. There was an episode of Jeff Belanger that never actually aired that we put into the Patreon that I am not going to air that one. I just actually uploaded my audition piece for AM 950, which was with Patty Negri. So there's some good stuff there. I just did some movie ticket giveaways on the Patreon as well, and we are going to be giving away this week tickets for people if they want to see Twisters. That's going to be an advanced screening July 16th at the AMC Rosedale Theater. We'll be talking more about that tomorrow. So we do that. Just go to patreon.com/GhostBox Radio. Please consider doing so. The money that is made from that actually goes towards stuff like the software I use for social media scheduling or new equipment or buying the books for some of the authors that we interview so that I'm able to do some research before that. So I ask that you please consider doing so and would greatly appreciate any support, let alone the fact that you give me even without being part of Patreon. Don't think that I don't appreciate all of that as well. So just wanted to throw that out there. Tonight we're talking a little bit about shadow people and other things. We had to go to a plan B tonight because our guest, for whatever reason, is a no-show tonight. So we're just going to kind of keep moving. The last segment I talked a little bit about a shadow figure or shadow person, I should say, that I saw over at the Mounds Theater. And Damien had asked the question, was shadow figure hatless? And the one that I saw, yes, was. In fact, I think both of them that I'd seen were hatless. And the other one that I saw when I wanted to talk about was at the Villisca Axe Murder House. And this was about 10 years ago. It's coming up on 10 years since I went there. And it's one of the most serious cases that I've ever experienced. And I say cases, that's not quite true, because no one goes there to solve it. I mean, people try to, but it's one of those areas that, everyone, so many people I know have come out of Villisca like, yep, we crossed over the family. Yes, we did this. Yes, we did that. You did nothing. No offense. You did nothing. That place is kind of locked down. When I went with the people, I went with the person who is in charge of the group. She's just like, I crossed over the children. And for those who don't know the story of Villisca, it basically comes down to that 8 people were murdered in a house in, was that 1912? And basically since then, it has been reported to be a very haunted location. They never found the murderer. There were 6 children and 2 adults that were massacred in that. And the thing about that is like, I think the real darkness, in my opinion, began when that house was opened up for people like myself and other investigators to go through and experience and investigate, because it became known very quickly that this house, that people were coming in, not everybody, but there were people coming in and doing like rituals in there and conjuring and stuff that they shouldn't be doing. And when you do that, you just don't, that stuff doesn't just leave. It lingers and it becomes worse and it festers. And that's what happened with this situation, I believe. I've always called Villisca the STD of the paranormal community, because people go in and do stuff that they shouldn't do, and it just sticks. And so by the time I got there, which was, I've been there a couple times now, but the first time was in October of 2014. And it was one of the darkest times of my life in terms of investigating. But early on in the night, we were in, and the house is very small. So everything is completely kind of pushed together. And so I was in the living room, for lack of a better term. The other 2 out of the 4 total, the other 2 investigators were in the room with me. The woman who is in charge of the investigation, she was outside kind of doing a perimeter check of the house itself. Now, if I'm sitting on the couch, which is I have to tell you, it's one of the most uncomfortable pieces of furniture ever. But anyway, if you're on the couch and if I'm looking straight and I turn my head a little bit to the right, there's going to be a kitchen there. And we're technically by the front door, but the only way that people come in and out of the house anymore is through the back door, because you go through the kitchen. And I'm sitting there, and all of a sudden I see this person running through from near where I am, through the kitchen, out the back door, a shadow person. This was a shadow person that ran through the door. And I'm like, oh my gosh. And so I said to everybody in the room that was with us, I said, did you see that? And of course, none of them did. I mean, what are you people doing? Pay attention. That was one of many times that night that it's like, you're in this place, use your eyeballs, for God's sake. Anyway, not that I'm upset about it or anything. So they're like, no. I'm like, well, it was a shadow person that ran out the back door. And no one was all that impressed. But then the radio crackled, and it was the person who was doing the perimeter check. And she was just on the outside of the door, or right around where the kitchen entrance is. And she comes in and she goes, guys, I just saw a shadow person run out of the kitchen door and through the yard. So that shadow person I saw, she saw. And we weren't together. We didn't see it at the same time. We saw it like a continuation. I saw the first part of it, and she saw the second part of it. And I just thought, gosh, that was really cool. It was really neat that we had that moment, because without even realizing it, that's kind of a validation. And a validation is what we're always looking for. It is one thing for me to be like, oh, I saw a shadow person. But if no one else has seen it or had any sort of inclination of what I was doing, it doesn't quite work as well. I mean, I'm notoriously bad at this. When someone's like, I don't know them, and they'll be like, "Oh yeah, I saw this, this, and this." I'm like, "That's great," but it's but it's not that I don't believe them, but it's like, well, if I don't see it, I'm not going to necessarily, I guess, believe it. So and it's fair that other people would say the same thing to me. That's why when I try talking about stuff, I either try to include some kind of validation or if I have a recording of it. But it was really, really interesting. Joshua says you experience it in different times, moments apart. That's exactly it. And that's pretty cool. I think that is absolutely just a really exciting prospect to be able to have that. Now at Villisca, I don't think you can consider this a shadow person, but we went up to the attic. Now the killer is believed to have waited in the attic for the victims to come back from mass and get ready for bed. And when they went to bed, this person came out and murdered them all. I'm not going to get into the details in terms of the fact that I think more and more people are not believing it's just one person when you think about how many people were killed that night. Nevertheless, you have this thing where, when I say attic here in Minnesota, the attic is going to be 2 floors above where I am right now. You have the main floor, which I'm on, an upstairs, and then an attic. At this farmhouse, you had the main floor, the upstairs that had the parents' bedroom and the kids' bedroom, and this other crawl space, and that was called the attic. So when they were all getting ready, if what we believe is true, there is somebody waiting for them for hours, just waiting for them to go to bed. So we went up to the attic. This is like our 3rd time. We were chased out of the upstairs originally. Things started to get really nasty up there. We started to get pained. We were getting attacked. Spirit Box was saying some pretty nasty stuff to us. It's very frightening. It's very frightening to think about it even today. So we went back downstairs basically with our tails between our legs. It was about 3:30 in the morning, and the person who was running the investigation, she was completely out of her element. And lucky me, everything seemed to have been kind of focused on me up there. I went along as more of an observer. I didn't really go along as somebody who was going to do a whole lot of investigating. I was going to run my spirit box, and that was about it. But the spirit box started saying my name. I started to become attacked. It was very clear that whatever was going on, that it was something that was focused on me for some reason. And so we get back downstairs, and this person, we're all staring at each other like, what do we do? While we're down there, you can hear footsteps constantly back and forth upstairs above us. It was, kind of mocking us, quite frankly. It was, it knew we were terrified. We weren't scared. We were terrified. And so we were down there, and we're just sitting in just silence. And this person, I just don't want to say her name. She just kind of looks over at me, and she goes, I think we should have the person who's been getting the most activity. I think they should go up there by themselves and see what happens. And the other two, they all kind of turned and looked at me. And I said, listen, no, I'm not going up there. I am not going up there. Here's the thing. I know that some of you out there who do these sort of like more of these thrill-seeking investigations think that there's something really cool about doing stuff that could possibly cause you harm. Good for you, but I'm not going to do that. And even as it was, I didn't go away unscathed. So I just said, no, it's a dumb idea. So we sat there for another 10 minutes, and she's just like, well, I guess as the leader of this group, I should probably go up there by myself. And her team, nobody is speaking up to her. And I looked at her and I said, why do you feel you need to do that? There is nothing heroic. There's nothing to be gained from it. You don't have to do that. That makes no sense. Clearly, if anyone going up there right now is not a good idea. So we just sat there. And we met there 5 minutes or so passed, and she's like, not her team, but me. She's like, Greg, would you go up there with me? And I'm like, yeah, I can do that. Sure. Whatever. And we go up there, and we go up to the attic, and we just sit there in the dark. And then I realize there's something in front of us, and it's moving. And it's not on the ground. It's in the air. It's maybe about 4 feet off the ground. We're in complete darkness. And the term that I said that day that stayed with me for the rest of my existence as a paranormal investigator is the term blacker than black, meaning that you could be in a dark space, but this is even darker. And it's folding in on itself. It's just a cloud, and it folds in on itself. To this day, I don't know what that is. But I will say that there's been very few times I've ever been involved with anything that I consider to be evil. But I will say this, whatever that was truly dark. So that's one of those experiences I will never forget. Why don't we go ahead? Let's take another break. When we come back, there's some other stuff I want to talk about. And then we'll check out the comments as well. Anything you want to say, put in the comments. We'll read it. You're listening to GhostBox Radio on AM 950. Greg Bakun here. I love historic tours of Minneapolis and seeing everything it has to offer. But if you know me, I like to include a little spooky in my tours, which is why I found the perfect combination. Minneapolis Trolley Tours does this amazing candlelight ghost tour that you have to check out. It's an extremely immersive experience. It's a trolley trip that starts out at a haunted mansion, traveling around Minneapolis locations exposing ghost stories that the public and business owners would rather left untold. Then a tour of the aforementioned haunted mansion where ghosts of past residents from the 1800s reside, plus a lot of surprises to discover. Next, experience Gertrude's After Hours. Did I mention Gertrude is the mansion's most famous ghost? Maybe she'll show up. And you finish up the tour at Gertrude's Lounge in the haunted basement of the mansion with refreshments and Q&A. The trolleys are climate controlled and the mansion is restored to perfection. Check out MinneapolisTrolleyTours.com for more information. Have you ever met someone who not only can help you on a deep spiritual level, but also potentially change your life? Refined Divine is an extremely gifted psychic medium who travels the nation and lives right here in the Midwest. And she offers mediumship, mentorship, house and business parties, energy healing, palm readings, and so much more. Refined Divine has helped thousands, and she can help you.
Hi, this is Psychic Medium Deb. I cannot wait to hear from you. You can go to refineddivinepsychic.com.
Greg Bakun here. Like you, I love good, fresh, delicious food. So I want to tell you about this treasure in Roseville called Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Maverick's has the best roast beef sandwiches I've ever had. Made fresh every order. Add fries or onion rings dropped in the fryer when ordered, and you have a winning combination. Maverick's Real Roast Beef has a lot more than roast beef, so check out their website, mavericksbeef.com, or check out their restaurant on Lexington in Roseville. It's that time of year again where the weather is getting nice and it's time to get out of the house for some family fun. Lilliput is the perfect place and is open for the season. Be the first to take on their newest escape room, The Bunker. It's intense, exciting, and totally unforgettable. Prefer spooky? Try the Haunted Mansion. When you're done escaping, hit the mini golf course, go-karts, and jump pads. Lilliput is perfect for parties and group events too. Visit lilliput.net for hours and start your spring adventures at Lilliput. And join me tomorrow on GhostBox Radio with Greg Bakun. We're going to see the return of psychic medium Refined Divine. She's going to be on. We're going to do one question readings live on the air. And I just want to remind everybody that the best way to get your question read is to call in tomorrow. These are always fun nights. Deb is fantastic. So is her husband, Dave. Your calls are absolutely amazing. I love them. And call in tomorrow. Put it in the comments. If you have a question, tomorrow's the day to do it. So we're going to have Psychic Medium Refined Divine on. And don't forget that if you want to schedule a reading with her, if you want to check out the classes that she has going on, or if you want to see one of her retreats, and I know people who've done all of those, go to refineddivinepsychic.com and get with it, because there's a lot of good things that she's offering, and I'm looking forward to her being on tomorrow. We are talking about, we're kind of talking about shadow people. We're not quite as in depth, I think, if we would have had Heidi joining us tonight, but maybe she'll be able to join us, or down the line, or we'll find somebody else down the line to come on the show. But it's been a fun conversation to talk about scary moments. Let's see here. Let me get the comments here real fast. Let's see here. Cynthia has written a bit of a novel over here. She originally, earlier in the program, she had put out a comment about one of her experiences with the shadow person. She said her second experience with shadow people happened about 7 years ago. She spent the night at a friend's house as a turn-of-century farmhouse. The bedroom she occupied felt comfy and happy. A few weeks later, she visited again, and they put her in a different room. This room felt negative and dark. She was getting ready to go to bed and shut the main door. No light shone out from under the door. She says she immediately saw in a corner a black silhouette of a slender farmer's wife clutching her 9-year-old daughter of hers. Wow. That's a lot. I mean, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. And that reminds me, and I think I told this story before, and I apologize for kind of telling the same stories over and over again. When I was out at Gettysburg, and that I stayed at an Airbnb, and it's interesting for those of us who have done this. And I don't even think it's just those of us who've done it. I think anybody who's experienced gone into a room, you're like, I don't feel welcome in here. I don't know. There's no one else in here, but I don't feel welcome in it. Like you feel oppression. You don't feel like you were wanted in the room, and it's very difficult. And I ended up getting this Airbnb for a house that was built like in 1850. I thought that would be fun. I thought that'd be really cool going out to Gettysburg. I'm working. Someone had asked me to take part in an event out there. I took part in it. I drove out to Gettysburg, and you know what? I'm going to really immerse myself in this, and I'm going to stay in this Airbnb from 1850. Boy, that was a haunted house. That was a really, really haunted house. And you're like, well, Greg, that's what you do, isn't it? Yeah, it is. But sometimes you want to have a break from it. The event I did in Air Ridge, which was a Confederate hospital / headquarters, that was pretty overwhelming. The battlefields, that was something else. Both amazing. Kind of wanted a bit of a rest. And in this house, I had seen a kind of a sliver of like smoke in the house moving in the kitchen. It was just like a singular plume of smoke moving as if it was a person, like changing direction, coming near me, which is like, nope. I don't think it meant any harm, but it's still. But the thing that I'll never forget, and this is kind of shadow figure-y, that's right, I did see a shadow figure in my house too, didn't I? So many wonderful memories come back. Annette said a Civil War reenactment. No, I was doing a paranormal investigation of a Civil War location, and I stayed in a house that was built in the 1850s. And so I'm doing a video chat with a friend of mine, and I'm in the kitchen again, and the lights are on. It's nighttime, and I'm doing this like if I'm looking at the computer, such as I'm looking at for those watching on Facebook, and I see in front of me a shadow move. I'm like, ooh, a shadow person. Holy cow. I'm looking at it. I'm not looking at the screen. I looked at it just walk by. And I look on the screen, and the person I'm talking to, just their eyes are really wide, really wide. And I'm like, what did you see? And they're like, nothing. Like, you saw something. What did you see? Nothing. I said, listen, I'm staying here, okay? I need to know what you saw. And this person's like, there is somebody that walked behind you. So what they saw was created a shadow that I saw. That's creepy. That was creepy. And I had that same sort of thing happen when I was at my house and I had somebody visiting, and I saw a shadow kind of move across their face when I'm looking at them. And I'm like, did something move behind me? And they're like, yep. So, and for those who don't know, first of all, I'm doing my show from my house. My house is haunted. Just as simple as that. Stuff happens here, not in every room, but stuff happens here. I kind of keep it on lockdown quite a bit, but there's stuff that goes on here, and that's just how it is, and that's okay. But, it does happen, these locations, and it's stuff that, how many times has this happened to you, and you may not notice it? I mean, those of us who do this a lot more, where we seem to be much more in tune to those kind of like quick changes in like lighting or whatever else. But maybe there's some people who, and not because they're not, they aren't able to pay attention. It's more like they have stuff in their mind. They're not thinking in that realm. And suddenly there is like something that happens, and they may not pick up on it. It's one of those, like, just like the old question of, do we, walking down a busy street, are we seeing people, but they're actually spirits? You don't know. How many times do we walk by and we're actually walking past a spirit, maybe something residual? I don't know. It's an interesting question, though, isn't it? Especially being out at the Civil War, or being over at Gettysburg. It was quite something. And that's just kind of how it is. So yeah, it's an interesting. All of it's very interesting, and I really love it. Though, to be honest, kind of rounding back to the beginning of the conversation, I personally have never run into anything that's like a shadow figure, shadow person that had been negative to me. I've always had these, I just see them. There's nothing there. Though some of that stuff does kind of freak me out a little bit. I remember earlier the next year in 2015, I went out to Los Angeles, and I was in the Azusa Mountains with my friend Roger, and we were doing a paranormal just investigation at the campsite we're at. And it's, really far up in the mountains. And there was a moment, it was just really dark. It was the middle of the night. It was really dark. It felt very claustrophobic. I mean, it's just like you couldn't really see anything more around you than maybe like 5 feet or something. It's just really dark all around. And suddenly the air just changed. It became lighter. The energy became lighter. And next thing you know, we could see like 30 feet away from us, and you could see a tree line. None of that stuff we could see before, which is really interesting. And it's kind of frightening at the same time. Like, what was that? There's a lot of different types of spirits up in the Azusa Mountains. Really interesting place to do an investigation. And I don't know. It was pretty incredible, actually. A pretty incredible experience all around. And just a lot of energy up there that we experienced. And I had an ovilus with me. For those of you who do not know, an ovilus is a device that it is believed that spirits can pick words out of, and it has a screen, and those words will show up on the screen as if the spirit wants you to know something. Well, we're out there, probably like, I don't know, 4 o'clock in the morning or something like that. And I'm looking down at the obelisk, and 3 words come up together. And it's harvest, the word harvest, heart, Heart, and day. Harvest, heart, day. Okay. I'm like, what the hell is that? And then I'm like, oh, wait, I know. Back in the day, I used to always, for my paranormal investigations, I always wore a charcoal hoodie, and on it said Harvest. Okay, it said Harvest. It's actually a name of a production company, a television production company, and it said Harvest on it. Like, that's pretty cool, but what does Heart Day mean? And then it hit us. It was February 14th. It was Valentine's Day, and it just said Heart Day, Valentine's Day. And I think that's really something. And that's, I know that there's a lot of people out there that really want some real big paranormal thing to happen to them. That moment of those 3 words coming up on the obelisk, that was pretty special for me. That was where it's at. And another time that the obelisk worked really well for me was when my mom was in hospice, and my dad had passed away about 4 years beforehand, and my mom was in hospice, and she was, lack of a better term, she was gone, but she was still alive. She was just gone, and she had been like that for about a week, and it was really hard because my mom was a very proud person. She didn't want to have anyone see her this way. If she was with it and she knew that people were seeing her like this, and it was just like my sister and I, really, no one else, she would be very she would not like it at all. So after about a week of this, and we're just like, telling this person who is in basically a coma, but just kind of like, uncontrollably shaking and stuff, I'm like, go to the light, she's not going to the light. I get in my truck. It's out in New Brighton. I'm heading back to St. Michael, and I'm addressing my father, and I'm yelling at him, like, why have you not taken her? Why have you not taken her? I'm kind of swearing at him, to be honest, something I would never do to him in person. But I was just so angry. I was like, you have the ability to take her. Why haven't you taken her? Just half an hour of that to get back to St. Michael, and just saying all that. Why haven't you done this? And I get home, and I'm feeling pretty bad, not because of Mom. I'm feeling bad that I spoke to my father that way. I never would speak to my father that way, but I was so upset, and I knew that he could help. I just decided to turn on the obelisk, and 2 words immediately show up on the obelisk. It's 2 words. I have a picture of it. I won't put it up here, but it was heard, Heard, and release, just 2 words. And I kept the obelisk going for about 45 minutes. No other words appeared on the obelisk, just those 2 words, heard and release. And I knew that was it for Mom then, finally. And sure enough, I go to bed. I get a phone call at 1:15 in the morning from my sister saying that Mom had passed, and that those are the moments that I find extraordinarily interesting when it comes to paranormal investigating, much more so than anything like yelling or screaming or anything like that. That's the stuff that means something to me. Thank you all very much for taking part. Unfortunately, we didn't have Heidi tonight. Maybe we can reschedule. Maybe she doesn't want to be on. We'll find out. But appreciate you all joining in and taking part in the show. We talked about shadow people. We'll be back tomorrow with Psychic Medium, Refined Divine for your 1-question meeting. Everybody, have a great night.